Cry baby. Tell me how you say that.
Chikoupolis?
Try again.
Chikoupolis?
Try again.
Chipitilicolis?
This is what love is. Let's not go. Let's not go. Oh, let's not go.
Now to a growing mystery, the death of a lifestyle influencer, Ashlee Robinson, better known online as Ashlee Jenae. Just days after popping the question overseas, her fiancé is now being held in Zanzibar by investigators trying to figure out what happened. CBS Weekend News anchor Jerika Duncan spoke with the family and has new details. Jerika.
Yeah, good evening, Tony. Ashlee Robinson was on the vacation of a lifetime. She was in Zanzibar, which is off the coast of Tanzania. She was there celebrating her 31st birthday. Her boyfriend of about a year and a half, Joe McCann, proposed to her on the trip, but last week something went terribly wrong. Police say Robinson was found unconscious in her villa and was rushed to the hospital where she later died. Now, her parents tell me they received a call from McCann, the boyfriend, acknowledging that something had happened. But they say it was the resort where Robinson was staying that notified the family of their daughter's death.
Do you believe that Joe McCann had something to do with your daughter's death?
It's under investigation, and we don't know what went on.
It's under investigation, and like we said, we just want transparency.
Today, investigators in Tanzania held a news conference where they said they are questioning McCann and they are holding his passport until the autopsy results are complete. And Tony, we did reach out to McCann and have not heard back.
Jerika Duncan, Jerika, thank you very much.
She was living her dream, a luxury birthday trip, a surprise engagement, a life she told the world she finally felt at peace in. But just days later, she was found unresponsive in a villa thousands of miles from home. And what happened in those final hours still doesn't fully make sense. She had just said yes. A safari proposal, a birthday celebration, a luxury escape in Zanzibar. Everything looked like the beginning of a dream life, unfolding in real time. But behind the photos and celebration, something changed. Within days, the same villa filled with laughter and romance became the center of a police investigation. Ashlee Jenae was found unresponsive and later pronounced dead in hospital. Authorities quickly pointed to early findings, while also confirming they are still examining the full circumstances surrounding her final hours. And now the question that refuses to settle is simple. How does a celebration of love turn into a case that still has no clear ending? Before this story became headlines and speculation, she was simply Ashlee Robinson, known online as Ashlee Jenae. She was a 31-year-old lifestyle creator, building a presence online through travel moments, relationship snapshots, and pieces of everyday life that reflected a carefully curated soft life aesthetic. According to reports, she had a lot of followers on Instagram, where she shared glimpses of vacations, personal milestones, and her relationship journey. To her audience, she represented a very specific kind of modern influencer storytelling. Not just luxury, but emotional connection, celebrations, affirmations, and life updates that felt personal and relatable. Behind the camera, she was also described by family as someone who was warm and expressive, deeply social, and someone who had so much ahead of her in life.
And now the details on the investigation into the death of Ashlee Robinson. Her family is demanding answers after the influencer from South Jersey was found dead during a trip to Africa where she had just been engaged. Action News reporter Cheyenne Corinne joining us live in the Satellite Center with more on this heartbreaking story. Cheyenne.
Alicia, well, Ashlee Robinson, she actually was raised locally in South Jersey, and now her death in Zanzibar is making headlines across the world. Well, today we spoke to her family in Delaware, who say they aren't getting answers from her fiancé or officials in Tanzania about what happened to her.
Uncertainty, mystery, anger, sadness. It's like a part of me has just been taken away.
On April 5th, influencer Ashlee Robinson, who goes by Ashlee Jenae on social media, was celebrating her 31st birthday in Zanzibar, Tanzania. She was on the vacation with her boyfriend of 1 year, who popped the question just 2 days before.
We believe that they were in love. We believe that their relationship was genuine.
Ashlee's mother says she never would have expected that less than a week later, her daughter would be dead. On April 8th, she says Ashlee called saying she and her fiancé got into an argument and were moved to separate rooms. The next day, she received another call, this time from her fiancé.
He told me that Ashlee did something to herself and that she was being taken to the hospital. I said, what happened when? And he told me it had been 11 hours prior.
Hours later, the luxury hotel the couple was staying at called saying Ashlee passed away. According to the hospital's medical report, Ashlee had an unidentified mark around her neck. They wrote, quote, according to the husband, he found she hanged herself on the door with several question marks.
Sometime Jill went back to the room with security, and that's how they found her.
Ashlee was also taken to a second hospital who listed her cause of death as cerebral hypoxia by strangulation and suffocation.
She's never done anything that would ever lead me to believe that she would do something to harm herself.
She was not just going to be discarded and forgotten about.
And the family, as you just heard, they are just desperate for information. They tell us that they are requesting surveillance footage from the resort. They also say that they have contacted police, the consulate, and embassy and have not heard back. No Action News, we also tried to contact Ashlee's fiancé and we also did not get a response. The family says their next steps are going to Zanzibar themselves to try to get answers.
She wasn't a global celebrity in the traditional sense, but in the world of social media, she had built something powerful. A digital version of her life that thousands of people followed closely. Friends and loved ones say she was in a happy chapter of her life, celebrating her birthday and engagement during what was supposed to be a milestone trip abroad. And that's what makes this case so difficult for many people to process, because the person they saw online looked like she was stepping into one of the most exciting moments of her life, just before everything changed. Joe McCann wasn't a public figure in the traditional sense, but in the days following Ashlee Jenae's death, his name became impossible to ignore. A tech entrepreneur, a fiancé, and now, one of the last people known to have seen her alive. As investigators continue to piece together what happened, his role remains central, not because of confirmed wrongdoing, but because of how closely his story is tied to hers in those final days. It began like something pulled straight from a highlight reel. In early April 2026, Ashlee Jenae traveled to Zanzibar, Tanzania, with her fiancé Joe McCann to celebrate what her family described as a milestone moment in her life, her 31st birthday and engagement trip. Just days before anything went wrong, she was sharing pieces of that journey online. Sunlight, wildlife, celebration, and the feeling of being exactly where she wanted to be. In one of her posts, she described the moment as her Chapter 31, capturing the sense of a fresh beginning rather than an ending. According to family statements and reporting, the couple even became engaged during the trip itself, marking the safari moment as a turning point in what was supposed to be a future they were building together. They stayed at a luxury villa resort, surrounded by ocean views and private spaces designed for celebration and escape. On the surface, everything appeared effortless: carefree travel content, romantic moments, and the kind of curated happiness that social media often amplifies. But what makes this story linger in people's minds is the contrast. Because while the world saw sunsets, smiles, and celebration posts, the days that followed would quietly shift from a dream vacation into something far more uncertain. And by the time people began asking questions, the trip that was meant to mark a new chapter had already taken a very different turn. In every story that later becomes a mystery, there's a moment where things quietly stop feeling the same. According to official reports from Zanzibar police, the early part of the trip appeared normal: celebration, travel, and a couple enjoying a private getaway. But behind the scenes, something shifted during the days leading up to the incident. Investigators later stated that a disagreement occurred between Ashlee Jenae and her fiancé, Joe McCann, while they were staying at the resort. Following that incident, hotel staff reportedly separated the couple into different rooms, a detail that has since become one of the key points in the official timeline. It is during this short window, after the separation and before the final emergency call, that the timeline becomes less clear. Authorities have not released full details of what happened inside the villa during those hours. No complete forensic report or toxicology results have been made public yet, leaving a gap between the last confirmed interactions and the moment she was found. And in cases like this, it is often that silence, not what is known, but what is missing, that fuels the most questions. Because from the outside, it still looked like a celebration. But behind closed doors, the story had already taken a different direction. At some point during what was supposed to be a private celebration in Zanzibar, everything stopped. According to statements from Zanzibar police and early family reports, Ashlee Jenae was later found unresponsive inside her villa at the resort where she had been staying with her fiancé, Joe McCann. Emergency responders were called to the scene, and she was immediately transported to a nearby medical facility. Despite efforts to revive her, she was pronounced dead shortly after arriving at the hospital. Authorities later confirmed that the incident occurred after a period in which the couple had reportedly experienced a domestic disagreement, and hotel staff had already separated them into different accommodations earlier in the stay. From an investigative standpoint, officials stated that their initial findings pointed toward a non-criminal explanation, and they have not announced any charges against her fiancé, as the case remains under review. But what makes this moment so difficult to process is not just what happened in the final hours. It's the silence surrounding them. There is still no publicly released full forensic breakdown, and many of the precise details of what occurred inside the villa remain undisclosed. That gap between confirmed fact and missing detail is exactly what has fueled global attention and ongoing questions. Because on paper, the timeline is brief, but in reality, it marks the exact point where a celebration ended and an investigation began. The official account. According to statements from Zanzibar police, Ashlee Jenae died after what they described as an incident of self-harm inside her villa following a reported disagreement with her fiancé, Joe McCann. Authorities stated that hotel staff had earlier separated the couple after a conflict, and that she was later found in a critical condition and taken to hospital, where she was pronounced dead. Police further said that their preliminary investigation found no immediate evidence of foul play, and that McCann had not been arrested or charged, as there was no basis for criminal proceedings at that stage. In addition, officials have indicated that investigations and forensic reviews are still part of the process, including further examinations before the case can be fully closed or finalized. The unanswered questions. Despite the official position, important gaps have kept public attention focused on the case. One of the biggest concerns raised by family and friends is the lack of publicly released forensic details, including full toxicology and medical findings that would normally support a final conclusion. Reports indicate that these results have not yet been fully disclosed to the public. There are also questions about the timeline itself, with some inconsistencies in how different accounts describe the exact sequence of events leading up to her death. Friends of Ashlee have publicly expressed disbelief at the early conclusion, stating that the version of events does not align with the person they knew or her recent behavior. Online, these uncertainties have fueled widespread discussion, with many people trying to piece together a clearer narrative from fragmented updates and early reports. Where things stand now. At this stage, officials maintain that there is no confirmed evidence of criminal involvement, while also acknowledging that investigations are still ongoing and additional examinations may provide further clarity. For her family, however, the situation remains unresolved, caught between an official explanation and a series of unanswered questions that have not yet been fully addressed. And until those final reports are made public, the gap between what is confirmed and what is still unknown continues to define this case. Within hours of the first post breaking online, this wasn't just a news story anymore. It had become a global conversation. When early reports surfaced about the death of Ashlee Jenae, attention didn't stay limited to traditional news outlets. Instead, it rapidly moved across TikTok, X, Twitter, Instagram, and short-form video platforms, where fragmented details began circulating at high speed. What made this case spread so quickly wasn't just the tragedy itself. It was the combination of social media dynamics that amplify emotional, unresolved, and visually driven stories. Research on platform behavior shows that content with strong emotional framing and uncertainty tends to receive higher engagement and wider distribution, especially on algorithm-driven feeds. In this case, the early information gaps created a vacuum. and online communities rushed to fill it. Short clips, reaction videos, and reposted headlines began circulating before full official details were even widely understood. Some posts focused on her final vacation moments, while others speculated about what may have happened inside the villa. As these posts were shared and reshared, the story began to feel larger and more uncertain than the initial reports alone suggested. Another major factor was timing and visibility. Influencer-driven stories tend to travel faster because audiences already have emotional familiarity with the person involved. With a lot of followers and an active lifestyle presence online, her posts were already part of people's feeds before the incident, making the transition from content creator to headline news feel immediate and personal. As engagement increased, so did interpretation. Comment sections turned into discussion threads, and discussion threads turned into theories. Each new post didn't just report the story, it reshaped how audiences understood it. And in that environment, even small details, like the last caption she posted or the silence after a final upload, became part of a much larger narrative being built in real time by the internet itself. By the time official reporting caught up, the story had already taken on a life of its own online, shaped as much by emotion and speculation as by verified facts. Even with official statements beginning to form a clearer picture, the story still doesn't feel fully complete. As authorities in Zanzibar continue their investigation, including police questioning of individuals connected to the case, several core uncertainties remain unresolved. One of the biggest questions centers around the exact sequence of events inside the villa during the final hours before Ashlee Jenae was found unresponsive. While officials have outlined a general timeline, the precise moment when things escalated and what occurred immediately beforehand has not been fully disclosed in public reports. There are also ongoing questions about the communication gap reported by her family, who have said they were not immediately informed through direct channels and instead learned key details later through third parties. This delay has raised concerns about how information was relayed in the aftermath of the incident. Another area still under scrutiny is the lack of publicly released forensic and toxicology findings, which are typically used to fully confirm the medical cause and circumstances of death. Authorities have stated that investigations are ongoing, but comprehensive reports have not yet been made public. And finally, there is the question that continues to drive public discussion online. If the early findings are correct, why do so many parts of the timeline still feel incomplete to those closest to her? Her family maintains that while they are cooperating with officials, they are still waiting for answers that align with the person they knew and the events they believe still need clarification. Until those missing details are fully released, the story remains suspended between what is officially stated and what is still being pieced together. For Ashlee Jenae, what began as a celebration in Zanzibar quickly became a case that spread across international headlines, shifting from joyful travel moments to an investigation still being pieced together by authorities and her family. Officials in Zanzibar have stated that their preliminary findings point towards suicide, while also confirming that the investigation is still part of an ongoing process and subject to further review and documentation. But for her family, the official explanation has not fully brought closure. They continue to describe a sense of disbelief, holding on to the memory of someone they say was vibrant, forward-looking, and deeply loved, while still trying to understand how her final moments unfolded so far from home. Online, the conversation has not slowed either. Instead, it has evolved into a mix of grief, speculation, and unanswered questions, reflecting how modern tragedies often extend far beyond the moment they occur, living on through feeds, comments, and timelines that continue to be rewritten in real time. And maybe that's what makes this story so difficult to let go of. Because somewhere between the official statements, the missing details, and the memories shared by those who knew her, there is still a gap that no one has fully filled. A gap between what is known and what still isn't. That concludes today's case, but the story doesn't end here. There are still countless voices unheard, stories hidden in the shadows, and truths yet to be uncovered. Here at True Crime Diaries, we are committed to digging deeper, presenting the facts, honoring the victims, and keeping their memories alive. If this story resonated with you, subscribe, like, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new episode. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next case.
talking on the floor.
You know, I always find it interesting when people are like super shocked that you would make a decision out of like the kindness of your heart or a decision out of love. It makes me think. The reason you're asking me like, are you sure, or are you not gonna go back on your decision, or is because you would do that. You're so shocked that I would do something because you wouldn't do it. And I sit on that. We give so many people, what's the word I would use? We give them the treatment we wish to receive from them. And they're so shocked when we give it to them because they would never do it for us. Shit is crazy.